like that. So we are live, ladies and gents. Hello and welcome to the 2024-2025 season of Together BHA and football in general. It feels like it's been ages, but also really quick with the Euros and the Olympics, I think. So how are we all? How's your summers been? Anything of note to
wait,
talk
what episode is this? You normally say what episode number?
258.
Yeah, lost our way there. It's weird to be back, isn't it? How long have we been gone for?
2 months, basically, almost to the day.
All right. Okay, so a lot of Brighton fans have probably been ecstatic, and then they saw this download pop up again, and they're like, "Oh God, here we are." We'll listen to these four prattle on. Been a great summer though. Nothing actually amazing's happened apart from Southgate's gone. But yeah.
Even that feels like so long ago, doesn't it?
How long ago does that feel?
I've forgotten about I genuinely had forgotten about, like, with the Olympics, I'd actually forgotten about the Euros. Like, I forgot it was even a thing. I've just been that in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And now we've got Lee Carsley, so every cloud.
How you been, Josh?
Adam, thoughts on Lee Carsley? Given that you are the most outspoken anti-Southgater, like I was outspoken, but I was like tame compared to you. Like who do you want as next England manager? We've already totally disregarded the agenda. Who do you want as new England manager?
I think you've mistaken me for someone that has solutions to the problems I highlight. But having said that, they've got sort of coaching trees in the NFL where you've got the people that the Belichick coaching tree, and then all the teams go out and try and sign every disciple of Belichick to hope that they get, something like that. I want no one that's ever been associated with Southgate. So, so I'm not, particularly happy about this. People will dislike this, but I actually think Potter would be fantastic for England. I really do, and I would like to see that happen.
Do you think it has to be an Englishman? Because I've had a few arguments with people about this, and it seems to me you get a lot of people go, "Oh, it has to be someone English." But I'm sort of, it's difficult because people go, we don't really there aren't really that many English options, right? If you're going to reel off the people that, like, Carsley's not going to get the job full time. I'm fairly confident he's not. So if you discount him, you're basically looking at Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, essentially, as English options to it.
Well, yeah, it won't be anyone good, will it? Because anyone good that's English is taken.
Yeah, I mean, it's Potter's out of work. But I think for me, it's like you want it to be the best manager available who wants the job, regardless of nationality, right? I guess, but I mean, otherwise, but then the argument is, are you then ever going to grow an English, coaching kind of dynasty if you're then giving it to foreign managers? I don't know. I'm similar to Adam. I'm spotting problems all over the place, but I don't have any solutions. I mean, the ideal is like the pie in the sky, right? Is that they give it to Carsley for the next few months, and then Guardiola does it when he leaves Man City, right? If you're talking proper pie in the sky stuff.
I don't want that board fraud doing it. He'll have no way. Well, he'd do something crazy like play Saka at left back. But how's everyone else been outside of England? Josh, you've had some interesting times, haven't you?
First of all, let's welcome Stephen Mitchell back to the chat, ladies and gents. Absolutely dapper new profile picture, Stephen. Loving it. He wants Piers Morgan as England manager, or potentially second option Wayne Rooney. In terms of managerial ability, I'd probably say that's about right. In terms of
he did have a winking face, though. To be fair, when he said Piers Morgan, I don't.
They're probably about even in terms of managerial abilities, I'd have thought.
Yeah, poor Plymouth. It's not started off well for them.
No.
Yeah, my summer was fine, Adam. Very quiet until I almost got bombed, and now it's back to being quiet again. So
yeah,
classic. Every summer. Yeah, quiet, bit of sunshine, friends, family, almost terroristed, back
Yeah.
home, back to work, chilling out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think you should expand on this any further. Just say that.
No.
We'll just continue on.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
I think that's probably for the best,
Yeah.
really.
I think it is.
Craig, how is sunny Chicago? How is the Windy City treating you right now?
Not too bad. Yeah, summer's lovely. Everything's all right. It's been a decent summer so far. We just had the air and winter show the last weekend, so like just jets like flying by for like 4 days straight. So that gives you a headache. But yeah, all in all, a decent summer. So I think a lot of the kids go back early and they do the UK as well. So they're like back at school in the next week or two, which is lovely. Some peace and quiet around the place. So yeah.
They finish so much earlier, don't they, in the States? Like crazy earlier.
It's like June, July, and August. They pretty much have, but like I think this year in particular, they're back like the third week of August, which is a bit strange. I still don't know how it works, but yeah, summer was good. Thank you.
Good stuff. All right, I think we've gone through everyone. We good? We ready to move on? All right, perfect. All right, so who are we? Really, is when can you find us? We're going to try and be more consistent this year with no European campaign to just absolutely massacre any sense of consistency we had. We will try and be live at 5 o'clock UK time every Sunday here on YouTube. Obviously, 4:30 kickoffs on Sunday. Probably not going to be live at 4:30, but we will be there as soon as full time usually. So just to try and be a bit more on time with people, expect to see us around 5 o'clock every Sunday. For those of you that listen to us on a podcast instead of the YouTube videos, you would expect that your following morning on your commute to work. That applies to everyone listening to us in the UK, the States, and everywhere else. We'll post it super early in the morning so everyone can get up and go to work driving with it and listening to Adam's lovely voice talking you through the result that happened that weekend.
Deepest apologies.
Yeah. All right, next thing on the docket, Fantasy Premier League. The invite code for those of you on YouTube is scrolling on the ticker below. It is OFUANK for those listening. OFUANK. Please go to our Twitter to grab that and copy paste it. Unless you have a fantastic memory and just type that in from scratch, you're more than welcome to do that too. The league is back. It's fully open. There are like so many more people than I ever expected to join that league. There's like 300 in it now. So come on in. Any names that you want to be throwing out there, fellas, as a value for money Albion choice in Fantasy Premier League this year?
I've gone, the only two players I've put in, I've gone for Barco because I think he was 4 million price wise, so he seems
that cheap.
He's very cheap, and I think he's going to get a decent amount of football. And from what we can see, the boy can cross a ball. So at some point, if we get Barco and Ferguson on the pitch at the same time, there could be some assists coming. So I've put him in, and then I've put Minte in, just because he's just looked absolute fire in pre-season. And again, he's a relatively bargain option. So I'd say you've got those two, and then the obvious is kind of João Pedro from a penalty perspective, but we've seen Welbeck take a couple, and he's not looked too bad with those. So yeah, Barco and Minte would be the two that I'd highlight.
If it helps, I haven't looked into it yet, and I auto drafted my team, but Jeremy Sarmiento's in there, so make of that what you will. That's my recommendation.
I haven't really looked at it that much. The only way you can sort of cram Haaland in there is by having João Pedro at 5.5. So like, I think a lot of people might try and go for João Pedro just for that reason. I haven't tried to cram him in. I think I'll try and do that later on. But yeah, João Pedro and Barco, I think, are the two that I've got.
How do you feel about this though, Josh? Because I don't really like to have Brighton players in the fantasy team because I like to spread my sort of potential happiness or disappointment out. Because I don't want double sadness if we get battered in a game.
So it's like betting against us.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, which is why I tend to put them in. I generally put them in as fillers because they tend to be cheaper. So I'm not really banking on them for
A nice
like make or
resounding
break.
endorsement for the team. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of with you. I'm not gonna hang my FPL success on anyone in our squad, especially.
To be fair, I like to use our niche knowledge at Brighton to be able to, on a wider fantasy level, to take players that are good value for what they are. So last year, like I got loads of returns on Van Hecker, like Van Heck 4.0, like and nobody had him, like because they were all going for like the popular 4.0s, but he ended up totaling up as like the second highest 4.0 defender in the game. So like that's where I like to look at. That's why Barco is also in my team. I think he's going to get enough minutes, even as a sub, and he'll be on my bench every week, basically. Like unless he actually does turn out to be unreal. And then Minte also is in my squad at 5.5. Like it just like feels like the OG Gross when he came in, and no one paid too much attention to him, under the radar, and then ended up being like the Brighton talisman for 3 years on fantasy. I can see just from, as Robin said, he's basically been player of the preseason, hasn't he? So at 5.5, he's an absolute bargain. I think if FPL could do it again, they'd probably put him in at 6, and I won't get him for 6. So I would swoop in and steal him now.
Are you not worried about Barker? Like, defensively, I don't know what the clean sheet ratio is going to be this year. Or you
as
just
a player that's going to be sat on my bench,
Yeah.
he's going to be second or third sub every game. It doesn't really bother me. Like, he may well come on. He may come on and get an assist here and there, or like may just get like 1 or 2 points. But I mean, we'll talk about it a lot more as we get to the preseason talk and Brighton in general. But like, Hertzler is supposed to be a lot more of a defensively responsible manager. So we'll see how that goes as the season goes on.
It's always where comparison is always helpful to have, or context is always important to have in these things. Maybe compared to De Zerbi, compared to any other manager, he looks like an absolute mentalist.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, moving on. All of the new stuff we're covering here today. New kit thoughts. For those of you in the chat, how are you feeling about the new blue and white? Much kind of pinstripier stripes. How are you feeling about the yellow away kit? And how do we feel about the likelihood that this is our last season with Nike? They released during the kit release that this yellow kit will not be our third kit next season, and the deal does seem to be up. So that would probably hint towards the fact that we're done with Nike. What do you think of the kits? How do you like them? Hyper Turk goalkeeper kit already sold out in short sleeved. So there was my my Christmas present dead and buried. How are we feeling about all the new kits?
It's probably quite controversial, but I don't really have a strong opinion on kits either way, generally. As long as they're not horrendous.
That doesn't make good content. Have an opinion.
I know.
Yeah,
Say you hate one.
I have a strong opinion on Nike, but I don't have a strong opinion on the kits. I think to Josh's point, the fact that if you don't get any of the kits within about the first 2 days, you don't get it until basically the end of the season.
Why don't they just make more? How have they not figured that out yet?
I think it's because we're just not one of Nike's top tier clubs, purely and simply. So they're just not that.
Probably
they're
why
not
we're looking
that
to move,
asked
right?
about it.
So.
And I guess I suppose the club are. It's difficult because you think the club at the level it's at would be able to carry the financial burden of potentially having unsold kit. But from what we can see, I think they'd sell out. The number of particularly Japanese tourists that turn up and are in the shop. I think they would sell I think they'd sell a lot more kits if they had them available.
Well, they were selling them. What was the price of those kits in Japan for the shirts? It was nuts.
And judging from like pre-season footage, like half of Tokyo has blue and white shirts at this point as well. So they got a lot of
that's
money.
what I mean. Like the risk reward. Like I can't imagine them carrying a bunch of extra stock. Like ordering a bunch of extra stock from Nike is going to break the bank. But I don't know. It's always been, since we got to the Premier League, it's always been an issue, kit supply. So yeah, and it's
What
not to
one
say
would
if-
you buy, the home or the away, if you had the choice? Or are you going to buy one?
I'd buy the away kit. I think I tend to like away kits more than home kits because, like, how much can you do with how different can blue and white stripes be?
Well,
I know we've had
I normally agree with you, but my take this year is I think the home is better than my favorite color is yellow. It's an important fact for everyone to have. So you'd imagine that I would love the away kit. I don't. There's something about it doesn't work for me, and I actually think the blue and white with the closer stripe, it looks cleaner. But I really didn't love the blue and white at the home kit last year. There was the shoulders were weird and funky.
Do you know what I want to do? I think we need to do like a correlation between your favorite home kits and the success of the season that they feature in. I want to see if there's any relationship between that.
Some lovely short form content we can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But you know, I think I'd go for the away kit if I was going to buy one.
Craig, what would you get?
So I got the home kit, and I think this year it was quick. Like, obviously, you have to be pretty quick on the old trigger, but it
I
came
assume
with
you'll be modeling this for us next week.
Sure, I didn't realize I was keen for that, but yeah, I'll do that. But I prefer the home over the away. I think I agree with Adam. It feels a bit training kit-y, like with the Nike sort of shouldery bits. I don't like the white on the back. I hate having that white patch if you're not going to have a number on the back of your home kit. That's the only thing I can say. And I didn't get a number because I don't tend to. So that's just a blank space, which is kind of annoying. But the little bit of yellow on the blue and white as well, like it tends to be the pattern as well. Like Adam's got one behind him from 2 years ago, right? Like the yellow tends to be the third color. So yeah, it's a kit. Do you know what I mean? And with regards to demand versus supply, I'm pretty sure the club would want more to sell. So it doesn't sound like a club problem. It sounds like a Nike problem. Where you just
the home's in stock, right? It looks like it is. I'm on the website now. You can get the home kit
in
I
every
think
size.
both home and away, to be fair.
Yeah, I think they're back in. Maybe the first run went out and they're back now. For those listening live, get in there.
Fair enough.
I just slating them for no reason then. Sorry.
Yeah, the fucking Nike. But speaking of Nike, though, I don't know whether you think this as well, Josh, because you haven't told us what you think, but I think Nike has fallen off. Nike was the go-to for as long as I can remember. You wanted the Nike kit. That was you wanted them to make your shirt. And then they've lost their way a bit. And I feel like Adidas has sort of come to the fore as the go-to. And then you've got the hipster choice of Kappa or whatever in the background.
And who is it? Castore coming through.
Yeah, but that's
They're
proper like...
if we get Castor, I swear. It's the one choice. It's probably worse.
They said that...
Aren't they the ones that like fall apart?
Yeah, I think they do Newcastle's kit, don't they, I think? They're the only one I recognise in the Premier League.
And they've complained about it.
Yeah,
but I saw an interview, I think, with their CEO saying that they're like strategically they're going after the Premier League a lot more aggressively. So I don't think we'll go with them.
Like a Temu brand or whatever that website's called. Like it feels it's basically just one step up from DHgate.
Yeah, I mean I'd go Adidas if I had a free choice.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'd go with Adidas as well, for what it's worth.
There we go.
Second
there
choice.
We go, Mr. Barber. Get it in an email. That's done.
Second choice would be Puma. I love a Puma kit.
Oh, Puma's a great shout.
Yeah, Puma's a good call. Yeah.
The AC Milan always has nice kits. I'm pretty sure they're with Puma. Like Man City are, and they always have nice.
AC Milan's always been Adidas for as long as I can remember, hasn't it?
Are they? I thought they were Puma.
Wasn't Roma Puma for a while?
I know AC Milan are Puma. Where have I been? When did they switch to that?
They were classic Adidas. I'm with you. They were Adidas at one point.
I don't even. Not even the best team in Milan. Rubbish.
Do you remember those Puma third kits where they just had their name written on them? Do you remember how bad they were?
Actually, that was
like
they put no effort into that, have they?
Yeah.
So that's like you've got one day left, right? They've gone right today, fellas. We've got to crack out the third kit. And everyone's like, it's like a Friday afternoon. They got about half an hour, and someone's like.
It's an episode of The Apprentice, ain't it?
It is, isn't it? Right,
we need you to design a third kit. That's
as long as we don't get that, I'm all in for Puma as well. Yeah,
Puma's a great shout.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a really good reminder of how bad they can be when they're bad. All right, comings and goings this summer. We expected a busy window. We've got one, fellas. It hasn't been quiet. We've had plenty of stuff going on. So transfers out. Let's talk about the guys who have gone. Some of note going along on the ticker underneath. Kozlowski, supposed to be one of the biggest wonder kids going, never got anywhere. Gone, out forever. Jack Hinchey came on. We talked about him at Stoke, and whatever the game afterwards was, we all said he looked like quite a promising young midfielder. Gone, free, Notts County. Didn't even get him out on loan one time, just gone. Stephen Alzate joins the central midfielders that never mounted to much of anything as well, out on a free. And then the three more of note, and one more to add here pretty quickly, is Osman, who looks like he's headed to Feyenoord. Pascal Gross has left us after 7 years to go to Borussia Dortmund. Dennis Undav for about 7 to 10 million, I think, after all, like all things included. Dennis Undav for around 27 million in English. I know it was closer to 30 plus in euros. To Stuttgart after what felt like an incredibly long messing around with them. And then Facundo Buonanotte has gone to Leicester on loan with no option to buy. So we can all eagerly look forward to another Ben White situation if and when he performs well for Leicester. Obviously, some of those names on there were just ones that stuck out as what could have been. But there are, there is one colossal name on that list, fellas. How are you feeling about the outs of this transfer window?
Well, you missed out the biggest one. Ansu Fati's end of loan.
And Lallana.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we gave Lallana his flowers at the end of the season, honestly. So I didn't even think to include him. And Fati, I honestly forgot that he actually played for us at one point.
I mean, that's about £250,000 a week between those two.
And he's been told to shove it from Barca as well, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
Good luck selling him. Who are they going to see? He's just going to be like, no, I'll collect the wages, actually. Don't worry.
I still think, I said at the time, I think he's going to end up in Saudi before too long.
Well, it's that big. We've now gone off pace, but the Vinicius Junior, like billions contract or whatever. Anyway, is anyone happy that Gross has gone? I don't think no one can be happy about that, right? But
no, I think there's a difference. You could make an argument that it's the right time. But that's different to being happy about it.
I don't think it's the right time either. I see the right time for him.
I don't think I say that you could make an argument that it's that the style that Hertz wants to play seems to involve basically everyone needing to be quick, as far as I can tell. And Gross is the obvious kind of outlier from that. I agree with it. I don't think it's the right time, but I think that's the only logical argument you can make is that potentially it's the right time. I mean, from his perspective,
it's cope. Right? It's cope is what it is.
Yeah, this is an absolute pint of it. Yeah.
But it's, from his perspective, it's clearly the right move because how often he, gets to go and play for Dortmund. I had no idea he was a Dortmund fan. I mean, is that a classic, Mark Cucurella, I've driven past Stamford Bridge once and now I love Chelsea type fan, or is it a genuine? I know he's like his dad used to take him. So I think from his perspective, it's a great move. But yeah, I mean, very sad. I mean, he's going to chuck that kind of, I think he's right in the argument for our greatest ever player. Full stop. So there's no one it can't be happy about it.
I still go back to 3 years ago, where he had a horrible string of games. Maybe it's two years ago.
It's under Potter.
Invariably. And we were everyone was just sort of like, this is maybe you should head back to Germany at this point. And then basically just became the best player for the club again for an extended period of time. Yeah, I would have absolutely loved to see one more year from him under this new system. You're right, and I think the speed is important, but I think work rate's more important in this system. And he had that in droves. You saw that by him being able to play pretty much anywhere, especially in that sort of right wing back position, even without the speed. That's devastating. I think that the biggest reason why that one also stings is not just the fact that he was just a big part of this club and the team on the pitch when it came to sort of leadership and the cultural aspect. But we've now lost. We just keep losing our centre midfield every year, like, and not just one. It's gross. We're about to get rid of Gilmore, it seems like, as well. If Napoli have their way with that, because seemingly Herzl doesn't want him in the system. Caicedo, Mikasa, it was just Bissouma. We rip out the heart of the team each year, and that is hard. Like, that's hard to come back from. So that's the added bit that's tricky with Gross. I'm thrilled. Dennis Undav, best bit of business we've ever done is loan out that farmer to go out and pretend he's an actual good football player and then sell him for nearly 30 million. Incredible business.
I think he played said he played about 600 Premier League minutes for us, which is what, 5 games in total, 7 games overall. And I think we signed him for about 7 million quid, something like that. So quadruple your money on him, whilst not paying his wages for most of that time.
Well, we also, the money just went into, it was a Tony Blue right hand, put the money in the left hand pocket from the original signing. What's your thoughts on the window so far of departures, Craig? Do you have similar feelings, or are you happy?
Yeah, I think we said it on a previous pod. I think last season that I would have preferred just to run Gross's contract down, give him a year. I think young German manager with experienced German leader in the dressing room would have it just screams necessary, doesn't it? So that's the real kicker. I think his obviously his on-field ability is amazing. And I think if you made a Mount Rushmore of Brighton players, I think Gross is definitely on there, right? So it's tough. It really is. You're losing one of the old heads in there, one of the guys that leads by example. So that's the crushing thing, really. When it comes to Undav, you've said it all, right? You quadruple your money with very minimal effort. And then Buonanotte is interesting. I don't know how he's going to do with Leicester. I can only assume that he's guaranteed some sort of playtime, but I don't know if that type of player is going to be able to thrive in an attacking way at a relegation threatened team. And I a little bit out there with that one, because you see Osman going to Feyenoord, you saw Buonanotte linked to Feyenoord. I think that's perfect. You're in a Champions League playing attacking minded team in an Eredivisie that's ever getting better. But having Buonanotte in a Leicester team, which, I mean, by all intents and purposes are going to struggle, right, as one of the promoted teams. I don't see how worthwhile that loan might be, but I'd love to be proven wrong.
The Buonanotte thing before he went to Leicester, where it was meant to be Feyenoord, we were told that it was a buy option involved in that, right? Which to me is like, well, why are we now not doing that? We've pushed him out to Leicester. Like, do we care if he does well at Leicester outside of just purely from a financial standpoint? It sounds like we were happy for him to just leave. If we believe
also
that.
Sounds like Osman is going to Feyenoord though. Like, so it may be a profile fit, right? Like if they wanted a certain style and Buonanotte maybe wasn't the style that they were hoping for, and they've gone with Osman instead, if that was made available to them, or they wanted to play Buonanotte right wing, right? Because they've now got no wingers on the right hand side, Feyenoord, from what I can gather, and Leicester have said Buonanotte will be our Dewsbury Hall replacement for this season, in our opinion. Like, that's at least, like, a couple of Leicester friends of mine believe that he will be playing in that 10 sooner or later behind the striker. Like, is it a case of like, well, that's where we ideally want him to play anyway, so we'll do it that way?
Yeah. It's the buy option bit that confused me. That was the bit where it seems like we were happy to be rid. And the same
Unless
confusion.
It was one of those weird
Gilmore
Undav buyback ones where there was we sold him but with a potential buyback where we could just make money. It's a weird. I don't know whether those deals whether you just can't do those sort of deals between Premier League clubs. I don't know, maybe there's weird finance to it, but I'm with you. That did seem odd. I wasn't. Yeah, I think loaning him out is a perfect option at this point. Because weirdly, even though he played a lot of football for us last year, he played something like 40 games.
Not through choice, though.
Yeah. He definitely needs to bulk up a little bit. But I'm with Craig. It's a weird putting him into a kind of relegation scrap. It's going to be a proper kind of sink or swim scenario for him, isn't he? Because I've seen games where it's kind of more difficult moments where you wonder whether he's the kind of person who's up for a fight like that. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see. It's a bit of a strange move. I thought he would have gone and played in one of Europe's, sort of continental top leagues, but there's definitely a player in there. I mean, we saw some of the goals he scored last year were ridiculous. Like the Chelsea one, the Sheffield United one, particularly were great goals. And there's
Consistency wasn't there, was there?
Yeah, that's
no
the
consistency.
thing. That's the thing. And just looking a bit lightweight and not necessarily working incredibly hard off the ball. So
He's
I don't know.
Barely a man yet, is he? Though, isn't he? Like 19?
That's the thing. He's still 19. So I don't know whether they've sent him to Leicester. I don't know whether in Steve. I don't know enough about. I didn't want to look at Steve Cooper when he was linked with us. I just thought I'm not even going to bother. I just don't want to depress myself. So I don't know enough about his systems to know whether or not he's going to have to work hard if he's going to get any football. I don't know. But maybe they just want to put him in an environment where he's going to have to toughen up.
We added 19-year-olds in though. At least we've replaced our 19-year-olds, Josh.
We have, yeah. And if the sentiment around Steve Cooper is anything to go by up here in Leicestershire, I read an article yesterday saying, could Steve Cooper be the first manager to be sacked before an official football has been kicked in the Premier League? So that's all you need to know about Leicester City's pre-season.
I saw they got beaten. They got beaten 3-0 at Lens, I think, was it yesterday? Which doesn't sound like a great. I mean, on paper, that sounds like a, in Football Manager, right? That sounds like a classic. You've set yourself up final pre-season friendly, right, against a sort of European team where you go, yeah, we're going to get some confidence in here. We'll play it away from home just to make it a little bit tricky. And you've just turned up and got absolutely battered, and your entire season has just been derailed before it starts. Like
your morale has dropped.
We've all been there, right? Like suddenly you get like those little concerned emojis popping up against.
They're always there for my entire team, the entire year. I don't know what you're talking about. You sign a 38-year-old Brazilian superstar on free transfer to make up for the disappointment. But yeah,
so I don't know. It's an interesting move for him. See what he does regularly in the Premier League. I mean, it'll be a bit damning if he can't get into their team regularly.
Yeah, it might be good.
That's the thing. So I don't know.
Get a fix in the chat. Welcome to the chat. I don't feel like we've seen you before. They said Osman looks rough as F. He needs a loan. Good news. Get a fix. Today that news is broken. He's off to Feyenoord on loan. So he will be out plying his trade there. He was one of those players that we thought was going to be like a absolute definite kind of first teamer when we signed him up. And yet this summer we've gone out and spent £30 million at Newcastle on their PSR deadline day on Yankuba Minte, who I don't know about you guys, but I truly hadn't ever heard of before until that moment. And honestly, I thought it was one of the strangest deals that I've seen in ages, of like last minute, 30 million quid, never heard of the guy. Like Newcastle fans weren't here or there about it. He'd been on loan in the Dutch league. And he's been absolutely unbelievable in preseason so far. And is probably going to be starting the game against Everton at Goodison Park. What did you guys think of some of these transfers in? Obviously, Yalkoye is probably going to be more of a developmental option as we go forward. May well see him go out on loan before the end of this month. Osman's already gone, so that kind of sorts that one out. But of the others that we've signed, Minte, Weaver, and then Cozier Dewberry, who also looked like just a random punt in the dark and has also bagged himself a few goals in preseason as well. What do you guys think about some of these additions that we've made, and where are areas you would like to see us strengthen before what I think it's the 31st of August as always, or maybe it's the 1st of September? Craig, what do you think of the new boys that have come in and what you've seen of them so far?
Good, really good. I think, what is it, 100% preseason, right? So like that's not a bad way to build the old FM confidence, like we said. So it's good. I think Minte has got all of the plaudits and stuff, and rightly so. I think he's been really good. It's interesting. I think we're now sort of, especially with the Gruder news that just came out before we joined here, like we're kind of spoiled for choice a little bit at these wingers now. So it'll be interesting to see what Cozier Dewberry is about. Obviously, Osman out. I agree for Osman, for what it's worth, like a season in the Danish league, like let's get you up the leagues a little bit. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I think Pfeiffer was important. I still think we're a little bit shy at the midfield as well. So it was important to bring him in, especially with Gross out. I don't think they're like for like, but they're similar-ish. I think we made really good signings. I think we're a right back and maybe a centre defensive mid away from being super, super comfortable with what we have. So yeah, impressive preseason. There's not really too much there. I think standout was Minte. Really nice to have Matoma back and watching him play again. It feels like he's a new player at this point, just because he was so in and out last year. Shame about Enciso as well, but I think, all in all, a good preseason. We're there. I'm actually fairly comfortable with the team, barring a right back.
Yeah, I love the signings that we've made. As in, I was the same thought process as Minter when you're like, hold on, how much for this guy? This feels like we're being scammed a bit. And then obviously it's hard to judge the preseason friendlies, isn't it? Because for the most part, you're playing against crap that you don't need to be too bothered about playing very well. So your flair players can start to look really, really good in preseason friendlies. But this is a 19-year-old that looks like the sky's limit. The other reason why you're excited about him is because there wasn't really any Newcastle fans that I could see, and I asked a few like what they thought of him. None of them were like, thank God he's going. Like, yeah, he didn't have the talent. They were all basically pretty disappointed he was going. And they were excited about having him as a breakthrough prospect in the team after that loan period. So he looks like a special one. And Wiffer also, so I don't even know how to say his name. How do you say it? Wiffer? Swiffer?
From what I can understand from one of the interviews, it's literally Weaver. Like, that's it. Like, the F's are pronounced like a V.
Okay. All right. Weaver. Yeah. Perfect. Again, as Craig said, I think we need help there. For me, when we're talking about these, the right back position and some of the other areas of improvement, centre back, I'm still labeling. We've got to have more in central midfield, especially if you get rid of Billy Gilmore. We've got an exciting group of players, an exciting group of young players. The squad has got so much younger this year, it feels like. Every position, it feels like we've got one of those up and coming players, every single position. Centre mid, Gilmore's gone, potentially. There's rumours that Moda is out, is going to be gone. Dahoud doesn't exist. You're left with Weaver, Baleba, and Milner. And you could argue Ayari's had a good preseason if he plays a bit deeper. And that's that. You need way more depth there, don't you? Even with the new tactics that are employed by hers, especially if you need one of those at some point to drop back and almost play as an additional defender. So I'd love to see more in that position to come through.
What are your thoughts on Ferdi Kadioglu, who is a left back, not a right back? What what do you make of that choice that we seem to be going hard for him? It sounds like United are really picking up pace with him, so it'll probably be irrelevant anyways. But what do you think of that attempt to sign him? Obviously, one of the breakout players in terms of like the spotlight on him in the Euros for Turkey. Obviously, an incredibly talented young lad. But we also have an incredibly talented left back in Purvis Estepinian, who is obviously currently injured, and Valentin Barco, who's sitting right behind him. What do you make of that choice with right back left wide open?
He's played a few games. He's played quite a lot of football at right back, no?
You tell me. I don't know.
Well, I looked.
Everything labels him as a left back, so.
Well, I looked at. Where was I looking? That I saw a breakdown of like where he'd started in his career, and he's essentially played everywhere. I could see the positions I could see played most were left back, right back, and attacking midfield, almost in fairly equal numbers. So I definitely think he could do that right back role, particularly in a system where it's potentially a bit more fluid. I mean, it's nice to be linked with players like that, but yeah, it does feel like it's ripe for someone else to come in and sort of nab him at the last minute. He doesn't. It's weird. I mean, unless we've been tracking him for ages, it doesn't. It's not the standard kind of Tony Bloom algorithm signing, is it? It's one of the rare occasions where it seems to be someone kind of in the spotlight.
Yeah, but what's the success rate as well of signing players that have performed well in the summer tournament that they've just played in? It's got to be low, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, have we done it? I'm trying to think if I don't know if we've got any.
The one that stands out for me is Renato Sanchez, not signed by us, but like he was the one, wasn't he? That was like unbelievable.
Yeah,
got signed for. Who did he get signed for? Was it Barca?
No,
did he go to Bayern first?
He went to Bayern, then went to Swansea, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's back. Went to PSG, and now has he gone to Salzburg or somewhere?
Is that the one when at Swansea he passed to the hoarding?
Yeah, he passed the hoarding or the ball boy or someone. Just like,
I think the worst one though, above him, is probably James Rodriguez.
Another great shout
in terms of hopes, and then the drop off. He can only play for Colombia because he was quite good in the tournament recently this summer. Well, why am I forgetting the bloody name of it? But he was again really good in the Copa America. Thank you. But anytime he couldn't even play at Everton, could he, under Ancelotti? Which, I mean, if you can't do that, what are you doing?
I remember who's the other one, Royston Drenthe. Remember him?
Oh yeah, he went to Real Madrid.
Yeah. He had an unbelievable. It was not even a major tournament. It was an under 20. I remember England got to the final of it was the under 21s, and they lost to Holland. And he was unbelievable in that tournament. Like, no one could get near him because he was that winger where he was just like basically built like a rugby player, but could run the 100 meters in about 2 seconds and could also dribble and shoot. And I just thought no one's getting near. Like, he's kind of like Adama Traore kind of build. We just think no one's getting near this player. I think he went to Madrid.
And then everyone did.
Yeah, then everyone realised that they could get. So I think he went to Real and then again ended up at Everton, the kind of graveyard of footballers who've once looked all right.
I've got Kadioglu data here, by the way. He played all 90 minutes for all but two games last season for Fenerbahce. One game he played 88 minutes and he was injured for a single game. And of the 38 games, he played 6 at right back and the rest were at left back.
Okay.
So
in a minute.
He could do it. He could do a bit of a job. But again, I don't know whether, because of the way that Ursula especially seems like he wants to play inverted wing backs where we're sort of cut, especially wingers up top, right? We actively want the wrong-footed player on each side. With the wing backs that are now coming inside and being much more narrow in this system, they've clearly identified him as someone that could probably just play anywhere because he's ultimately going to end up further up the pitch or in the center of the pitch for the most part when we're in possession. So he's interesting to me, but he's the fact that we're also trying to go after O'Reilly from Celtic, and we might miss out on both players, tells me that we might end up being fairly aggressive this month.
I think Gruder is the O'Reilly
I would guess that too.
alternative.
Yeah, how old is he?
19, I think.
Why we need to
Obviously.
stop signing 19-year-olds?
I think he's 19. Genuine, I think he is 19 or 20. He is.
Because O'Reilly's had a really good season last year. 23 years old. Like,
No, he's 20. Sorry,
he's 20.
He's aged.
I mean, it's sort of Dewsbury Hall, then O'Reilly, and then you've sort of ended up with this.
But I mean, this
lad.
guy is he is the prospect outside of Florian Wirtz. He is one of the prospects in Germany.
And he is a number 10 too. I've got the data here as well. Like he played for 16 starts at central attack and midfield. He played 1 start on the right. He played 2 on the right as a right forward. I don't even know what the hell that means. Maybe they played with like 3 at top. I don't know. And then 9 of them he came on as a sub. So I don't know where they were, but he's predominantly a central attacking midfielder. So that's your Dewsbury Hall, that's your O'Reilly, that's your Gruder.
Yeah, that's done.
And Gruder was a name that we'd heard like early last week. Like this isn't like oh shit, O'Reilly's gone. It sounds like we had like both pots boiling.
Fab
at the same
was
time to see what would work out for that.
Our favourite Fab was banging the drum for Gruder like
mid-July. I see
Yeah.
here. He said it's one of our dream targets.
Yeah,
is what
he's
he
been
said.
banging the drum for a while. And it's interesting. I mean, Hertzler looks like he likes to play quite an attacking, like almost like a central attacking midfielder in one of those midfield 2 slots. So he could be that as well. So
It's
all sorts
honestly like I'd love to hear your thoughts on the preseason tactics as a whole, because like we were supposed to be signing at one point, the rumors were we were bringing in that Swedish manager known for chaos ball, and like I'm not sure if like he didn't just stick a wig on like anyway
or not, or take a wig off in this case, but
because in this one like I don't know about you guys, but like we have all the hallmarks of a De Zerbi defense still wildly on display. Like that Villarreal game, like I could not believe how wide open we were carved apart at times. Like Everton may not be able to do it, but like Manchester United, like Arsenal, these teams, even United in the state they can be sometimes, like they will rip us apart on a counter attack. Like,
do you know what it is? We've actually, ironically, we've become a team that a De Zerbi team would rip to bits, because we just go so hard on the press, and if we get played through, then it's game over, isn't it? Which is quite amusing to that extent. But I don't know. They obviously, for that last game, they clearly targeted the fact that Veltman is not quick enough to get up and down, really, and Minte wasn't doing anything. So, like to point out, fullbacks and wingers are going to look like the key positions in this team, and they have to do an awful lot in attack and defence.
He even gave Baleba a go at left wing back as well, didn't he? Craig, what do you make of the Mats Hummels rumors that seem to be essentially at this point, like he's either coming to Brighton for a year +1 as an option, or he's retiring? Like Hertzler has been very open that he's had conversations with him at length and wants him here. And we're already seeing the pull of some of these German players already of coming over to play for Hertzler in Brighton. What do you think of the Hummels rumors? Obviously another centre half. We need centre backs, as Adam has said as well. Like that's definitely a place where we could do with strengthening. Anyways, what do you think of that idea? 36 now, I think, but obviously the caliber is massive.
Yeah, I love it. I think some people saying no to this or even being apprehensive to it is wild to me. Like I think even if he's not playing, right? So say for example that he's not even guaranteed to play, which he probably would be, by the way. He played in the Champions League final 2 months ago, but like So having that sort of caliber of person that's won the World Cup, that's been to Champions League finals, that's done all of this, been there and done it, I think it's a no-brainer to try and get him in, as long as it doesn't, break the bank or it doesn't just ruin everything else that we've got planned. If he fits within the structure, both from a philosophy perspective and from a financial perspective, it's an absolute no-brainer. And I think, having a very young group, as Adam has said, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, especially with the attacking depth that we have, you've got them going up against Mats Hummels and training every day. Like, it's a nice environment to be in. And you'll probably get smashed to bits, but you'll learn a lot, right? So just a really good signing for the dressing room, if not even on the pitch anyway, because he's been there and done it all. I think it's very cool.
We've got such a strong hit rate of bringing in aging Champions League finalist players, whereby it's a no-brainer, because the success of Milner last season says you almost are obligated to bring him in, given how incredibly that went. But no, I do agree with that. I think it'd be an incredible signing. I think it'd be amazing signing. It's the most high-profile signing the club would ever make. Right? You think of someone else? Am I missing Vicente back in the day?
Vicente, probably. Ansu Fati, I mean, genuine PR-wise, was obviously didn't go the way that everyone hoped it was, but that was pretty cool. I am
at the time,
I'm not as keen on the idea as Hummels, to be honest. Partly because he has a very strong reputation, if he's not playing, for being a disruptive influence. One of the reasons why he's not been in the Germany squad recently is that when he wasn't guaranteed to be starting, basically, Nagelsmann didn't really want him around the place. So there's a question to go, who's he dislodging? Are you playing him ahead? Are you just chucking Dunk? Are you chucking Van Hecke? Because he ain't coming in to sit on the bench.
Well, if we play three at the back, which is Hurtzler's ideal role, right? You have Hummels, Van Hecke, and Dunk, and at that point you then can move Veltman out as a right wing back, where he has played several times under Potter and De Zerbi and looked okay. You've then got the option of obviously Barco and Estepinian to be able to play at wing back, which is undoubtedly their strength more than fullback. Like that would be my obvious option, is that three at the back is his default formation, like full on. Like that was what he played at Sao Paulo for almost his entire time there. Like I would assume he would be immediately in one of those back three spots, and you would then have a backup of Webster, which as a backup is not bad, and Igor, who seems to be on his way out. There seems to be a few clubs after him, from Leicester to about 8 different Italian clubs. Yeah.
I mean, Hummels, like, you can't argue, like you say, pedigree-wise and achievement-wise. I mean, to end up playing whatever he's played, 60 or 70 games for Germany, and spend your entire club career across Bayern or Dortmund, obviously you can't knock it, but there's been a fair amount of chatter about his personality and his ability to potentially undermine teammates or managers if things aren't going well. So I don't know.
I don't think that's going to happen here, though. The fact, just with Hurtzler as the one trying to bring him in, and the fact they've had this long-standing relationship, that would be such a weird dynamic if he's like, please come here, you've known me for ages, do this, we respect one another, and Hummels comes in as like, you piece of shit. Like, I just don't see it. But more importantly, if we're selling Igor, there's no one who's left. So would you rather have Mats Hummels grumpy because he's dropped for a game, or Adam Webster might be semi-fit, and even if he is, what do we get? Because that's your third option.
If it's that binary of a choice, then
but it kind of is, right? Like our centre-back squad depth: Adam Webster, Jan-Paul Van Hecke, Igor, Dunk, Ed Turns.
Yeah. No, I'm suggesting that if there's no other viable alternative in the other 3 weeks we got left of the window, if it was a binary choice between Webster and Hummels, then you've got to be.
The fact that you even said that with a straight face is alarming to me.
I still think we'll see Baleba more as the wing back this season, if he has to.
I mean, Weaver could play that third centre back role as well, from what I've been reading of him.
and probably
So I
will.
don't know.
Yeah.
And we heard it. We heard it from the expert's mouth too, right? Hunemeyer said he likes one of his 3 centre backs to be as a hybrid central defensive midfielder as much of a centre back. So, like, we talked
Was that
time
through?
and time.
Obviously, I wasn't on that one, but was that through necessity? As in, he didn't have the budget to bring somebody else in, so he had to convert a defence midfielder into a centre back.
No,
No,
Or is
he
it like
specifically built it that way. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, another Uwe Hunemeyer reference. And if you haven't listened to this, we recorded that back in June. I think it was our last episode, right? On the first time we interviewed Uwe, which was 2 years ago or something like that, he told us, full circle here, about the fact he wasn't able to break through at Bayern back in the day. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Josh, because one of the people that pushed him out was Mats Hummels, which is kind of an interesting full circle.
Maybe
He's
bringing
also
him back
a
just
massive
to, bringing
Dortmund
him back
fan,
just to
isn't he?
drop it,
Yeah,
isn't he?
yeah, true. Yeah. Bring him back and drop him. Yeah, we're
There you
good.
go. That's it. That's the arc, isn't it?
Hunemeyer
That's-
comes in as an assistant coach and drops Hummels.
Yeah, there you go. They all come in.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the villain arc. But I don't know. It obviously makes a lot of sense.
I think if you can get Hummels to come here, if you can convince him to come here, you bite his hand off, you give him whatever money you want because you need that influence. Someone of the same heritage as your manager, you've lost your 2 German players in the same transfer window, and he's that wisdom, that experience, as Craig mentioned as well. I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it'd be a phenomenal signing. Like, obviously, your Welbecks, your Lallanas, your Milners that have done it all before, right? That are obviously great additions to the any team, like as a coach or anything of the sort. And you know, we had players before that too, with Bruno. You know, all that went on with him happened, but like he was there as that guy as well. But there are levels to that level experience, right? And Hummels is, without like being disrespectful to Milner or Lallana, like is undoubtedly a step up even higher, which can only be a good thing for who we're wanting to bring in, who they get to work with, and what we're wanting to do. So
it's a classic. It's another classic Football Manager signing, isn't it? Though, like
You're gonna have to
basically
take a
gone through-
shot every time you bring up Football Manager. You know that?
I know it's fine, but it is like you've scrolled through like free agents, right? And you filter it by like caps for country, like 50 plus, and you're just looking for like gems who are just without a club.
Well, just to give your point some actual justification, from what we understand, it's probably not amazingly far from the truth of the way Bloom's system works to surface players based on the data and the algorithms that he has, which is rumored to be the sort of way in which we uncover all these gems.
Pretty much every club uses Sports Interactive's database to some level. That's not a quip. Like most of them do, whether it's a youth level or further down. But most of them are. I'd imagine Tony Bloom's obviously got his sophisticated algorithm.
They're
sit
not
on
going to
top of
sponsor
it.
us, Robin, but they're not going to do it.
But they do. Like, interesting, because the only reason I say that is they had the boss of Football Manager was on the radio the other day talking about it, and he said that there are a lot of clubs now mainly in the EFL, that if you want to come in as an analyst or certain scouting levels, and it sounds laughable I know we're on a tangent, but it sounds laughable, but they want people to basically put their Football Manager CV in their CV.
No way.
At data analyst level.
Let's move on. This is going down a rabbit hole. That's absolutely insane. Let's move on to transfers around the league, because there's been a few that have stood out for me at least. And we'll start with one that's happened very, very recently, really. Dominic Solanke for £65 million to Spurs, Craig. Came out of nowhere, really, and was done very quickly. What do you think of that deal?
It's a lot of money, but it's what Tottenham probably need. I think you can look at a lot of the transfers, even our own, just around the amount of money that's being spent, and we can talk for 8 years about PSR and everything in between. But like that's their marquee signing, right? I think from their side, they needed to stop Richarlison from playing. So long case of one. If you have to pay that much, then great. Like I think they'll be better for it. I think he's a good striker. He showed that last year. I think he'll actually do really well for Tottenham. But 65 million is, it's a lot of money for someone of that caliber. But that's just the way of the world at the moment. They needed a big, strong target striker. They've got one. They had to pay out their ass for it. It's a good signing.
Yeah,
For me,
it was a weird one. Yeah. I mean, another one that stands out for me was Villa and Everton. Amadou Onana for 50 million quid. Can't get in the Everton side regularly, but Emery has just signed him for 50 million pounds for his Champions League campaign. What do we think of that move?
It's got to be one of those little scam things where they're just moving the money around, right?
There was that triangle, wasn't there, of like Everton, Villa, and Chelsea were like selling each other. There was that mad weekend where they were selling each other there's about 2 or 3 players going between each club, literally over a couple of days, just to wash money around. I mean, they've lost Douglas Luiz, which is going to be a big miss for them, because it seemed to be he was kind of one of those players where if he wasn't playing, they didn't seem to win. In that kind of Albion, Dale Stevens went through that weird spell where he wasn't playing, we didn't do anything. So they're obviously they need that kind of physical box-to-box midfielder, and they've got Ross Barkley as well, haven't they? Villa brought in Ross Barkley and Onana seem to be the two they've gone to try and replace Luiz. I mean, I guess they've got Champions League football, don't they? So they need a bit extra. But I don't know. He's one of those players. Like on his day, looked really good for Everton. But like you say, he wasn't doing it regularly.
I'm not judging anyone for their play at Everton, to be quite honest. And I'm assuming he'll probably end up doing well for Villa just because they're a tightly run ship. But you bring up Europe there. This is bad to say this, but I'm so happy we don't have European football this year. Like, we need the reset. We need just a season to get through where we're not just limping home. That would be pleasant.
I agree, to be honest. I know that is a controversial opinion to have, because everyone should be grateful beyond belief, right, to get another year in Europe. But like logically, it just makes sense to just give us this year to reset. We've had so much turmoil over the last 12 months with the unprecedented level of injuries, and then the exit, the new manager, Gross leaving, Lallana leave, like so many old heads moving out. Like it feels like it's the right time.
There's no point being there to make up the numbers, right? Like Josh, we were there personally to see what it would be like making up the numbers every week.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would be if we had 6 group games that were like that, right? That would be super depressing. And it sounds trite to say it, but like we've still got absolutely no right to be in Europe. Like generally, like we had that one season, and obviously it's a realistic target to get there again. But it's one of those things for me where it's kind of not in the conversation unless it happens. If that makes any sense at all. Like if we miss out on it, it's not even like I can really be sad about it, because to me it just doesn't feel like our natural level yet.
Well, let's get straight down to it, to the next part. Like, what is our natural level? What's your Albion mood looking like going into this season?
What do you think? What's your thought
on the whole, just Albion mojo? Or not great. I think it's going to be a season of transition. I think it's going to be the classic, like, not game of two halves. I think it's going to be a season of two halves. I think this first half of the season is going to be brutal, to be honest with you. I think we'll concede a lot of goals. I think a lot of players will take a lot of time to gel. I think we are going to make at least another 2 signings that would be expected first teamers, fullback for sure, and another centre midfielder probably. Like, we are going to be a team in transition. I think post-Christmas, I think you'll see that defensive responsibility start to show up. I think you'll see those set pieces that Hertzer is so passionate about really start to hit home. And I think, I would take top 12, top 13 now. I'd bite your hand off for it. because if you start slow, you know, you can get dragged in very easily. But I think we will start slow, and I think we will turn it around. And I think by the end of the season, like, you'll be desperate for it to like carry on. We'll be gutted that it's coming to an end. But I think we will be saying in May, like, God, like it sucks that it's coming to an end. If we'd have, you know, I can't wait for August, but remember in November we wanted it to be finished now. I think it's going to be really like two very different tales, to be honest.
So
What
where
about
do you
you?
think where do you think we're going to finish then? You said
I
you take
will
12th or 13th. If you had to put 50 quid on today, where we're going to finish?
14th.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm hovering around 11th or 12th. Is where I am.
This hard to make predictions at this point because our perception is going to change greatly well, mine will at least. If we round this transfer window out and we sign Kadioglu and Mats Hummels, and by the way, I think we've maybe, because this happened as we were going live for the show, we haven't really figured out the Gruder stuff yet, but I think we may have downplayed that transfer a little bit, because from what I'm reading from fans of Mainz, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, they're all fighting over this guy and saying he looks like a generational talent. So then the expectations go nuts. If you think you've got the pieces in place, it's a young team, but you're excited. That's a very different outcome, isn't it?
I still just think defensively it's going to take time. Like, I think defensively it's going to take time to like literally like murder that De Zerbi ball level of defending ineptness. I think it will take time, and like the Hertzler defensive responsibility and his set piece stuff, it's not going to have been done in the summer. Like, it's going to be a longer process, and I think that's why I think we'll start slow, even if we do have that Kadioglu and Gruder coming in and end of window, and we have a really good end of window. We're all really happy with it. Like, I think it's still going to take a little bit of time for us to bed in.
Dunk's had what, a week? Dunk's had a week with Hertzler so far. So to be the kind of the key cog in the defensive wheel.
Also got Jason Steele starting at Everton, so
I can't believe I'm the positive one. I've got a more positive out. Craig, where are you at?
I think I'm a little bit higher on the old Mojo spectrum. I think you got some really good signings in here. You've got a new philosophy, a new way of playing. I think it's bold. I think you might take a couple of teams by surprise early on. I do think you'll dip over Christmas. We got some really good winnable games in December that I think we're probably ultimately going to falter on. But I do still think we can. I still think 9th or 10th is more than I think capable of this team, especially when you look at the talent. But I think to Josh and to Robin's point, it's just how quickly they can gel. How quickly can you get this thing running?
That's basically it.
And the sooner you get that running, the higher we'll finish. It sounds stupid, of course, and it is, but it's just how quickly can Hertzler get this thing running.
You're exactly right. I think that's it. The thing that we don't know, because I think you had so many players when De Zerbi first joined who kept saying that it was so complicated to learn his system at the beginning. But then when everyone got their head around it, it clicked. So what we don't know is how much of a leap is it for those players that have been here and have got De Zerbi ball kind of in their system? How much of a leap is it to go to Hertz ball?
Well, it took him about 48 hours to instill his vision for St. Pauli.
That's like my thing. Like, I am 100% behind Hertzler. Like, fully trust him, fully well happy with the appointment. Like, love him. Like, I think he's just what we need in terms of the level of play that he wants to put in and the names he's talking to on the phone, along with the profile he has off of the pitch, where he's going to get bookings in the game, but he's never going to throw his toys out of a pram in a press conference. And now we're seeing De Zerbi in Marseille signing people like Mason Greenwood. And like, I'm not going to go any further than that because like you just don't know these days who's listening. But like, you're signing people like Mason Greenwood, right? And you sit there and you think, oh, that's all right. I'm quite happy to see the back of him now. For a lot of us, right? I know there's still some people who are ardently like on the De Zerbi train and would rather him never have gone. But like post Greenwood, that changed for me. Like it's irreparable. But I'm coming into this with the idea that Hertzler's highest level of management is the German second division, and he's 31 years old.
Oh yeah,
and if he actually, as Craig said, it all depends on how fast. My expectation is to see this team play Hertzler ball by January. If he does it by October, like, holy shit, like, my estimations have gone from, like, he is, like, a freaking prodigy for me. Like, he's way better than, like, I'm happy with him, and I think he's going to be good. Like, if he's got them playing full gelled October, right? Like, holy shit.
Attacking-wise, you can see it already, and you could see it in that first game in Japan. You could see it straight away. I think we chatted at the time. There was that moment in the first game where Jason Steele was doing the standard thing under De Zerbi, where he was effectively had his foot on the ball and was waiting. And you could see the camera angle. You could see Hertzler going mad, basically telling him to speed up. Immediately, you could see that. And you've seen that with, again, centre-backs. You know, that kind of studs on the ball, waiting for the press. It's not going to be a thing. You could see that from minute one in Japan. So we're so much quicker in transition already. Pressing so high aggressively. I mean, in that Villarreal game, we had like 6 or 7 players pressing aggressively at various points in the game. Attacking a lot faster. You can see that. There's not the ponderous... I know we kind of reverted to a bit of Potter ball towards the end of De Zerbi, where you felt like you were kind of just slowly playing it around the box without much idea about what was going to happen. Here, there's a lot more ideas behind it. And the interesting thing is a really bizarre thing I've noticed. I don't know whether it's just I didn't notice under De Zerbi, but we're playing a lot more through balls than I've noticed us play. Like Minte's first goal in the first preseason game was like a through ball from Milner, slotted straight through the defence. And then the other day you had Minte feeding it to Welbeck as well. So I know it's a really bizarre thing to pick up on, but it's one thing I've noticed. It seems like they're going to be a lot quicker and a lot more decisive in attack, which is kind of what everyone assumed we would get from De Zerbi. But maybe it's having everybody fit again. I don't know.
I think it also lends itself to wing backs and wingers for some reason. Like they're all being played together. Like there's going to be a lot of running into channels, right? Like I think that's just a natural progression of so many players comfortable on the edge of the box as opposed to in it. You're probably going to see a lot more of those players making those runs. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I hope he picks it up quicker than I think he does. But like that would be nuts.
I'm way more bullish. I know I've said this, but I'm just going through the Premier League. There's a lot of bad teams. There's a lot of teams worse than Brighton in this league this year. And
so where are you going, numbers wise? I think you're going to say
10th to 12th. No, I'm not going that high. But to me, that's a big difference. But 14th is like, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, I was 11th to 12th.
But
think about that.
The floor is low, but the ceiling is really high because he could take the league by storm a little bit in kind of the way in which De Zerbi did in the first year when you've got that unexpectedness from it. And I'm excited about all the young players. I really am. The more I'm reading about this Gruder as we're on this call, like I'm fully buying into the hype.
What I was reading, like I said, beyond Florian Wirtz, he seemed to be the talent in Germany. From what I was reading,
they were telling German clubs supposedly, if you want to read the rumors, over 50 million euros for a German club to purchase him. But yeah, crazy. Craig, where do you think we finish?
10th, I think. I think there's a lot of teams that are probably still finding themselves. You got 3 promoted teams that will probably do better than the 3 promoted teams last year. I think it'll be a little bit tighter down there, but I think you're right. I think we are better than half of the teams in this league. So it's around 10th or 11th is right. I think that's where the general consensus is roughly. But you don't know because you're still trying to figure the manager out, right? Like whilst we're saying that there are some fundamental differences between De Zerbi and Hertzler, some of it is the same. Some of those principles and some of that hard work, some of that pressing is already there. So for a large bulk of that team, there should be some easier transitions than it was from a Potter to a De Zerbi, right? That was just a stark, complete change mid-season, really tough. And eventually we sort of, injuries got the best of us last season. So whatever. But it's a case of, okay, does he take it by storm or is this a gradual process? And I guess we're all going to figure that out together as like, is this going to be a charge from 0 to 100 or are we going to have to gradually get there and build this team? The transfers indicate that we want to kind of make a splash. There's a lot of money being spent, but a lot of money being recouped. I think that the balance sheet is actually okay. But there's a lot of exciting players, an exciting manager, a new way of playing. I think we're better than 10 teams in this league. So,
and you know what? I think our first game is the perfect one, right? Sean Dyche away from home, right? We always talk about the ability. What is
you and I have got different versions of perfect, but go on.
No, but I'm saying the litmus test has always been how do we do against these teams that basically sit in, right? To have that first up to see, okay, what have we got in that situation? Because we've not been great against those teams by and large. So it's a really interesting game to have first up. Like it's probably one of the tougher if you look at the teams that we've struggled against over the last 2 or 3 years, it's probably one of the tougher games to have first up.
Yeah, but I think it's absolutely horrendous game to have. But I am interested in what changes we make under Hertzler. There's been a lot of discussion about set pieces. And I think that's going to be fairly pivotal this year as to can we get a little bit more sensible when defending those and actually score some goals from set pieces, which would be really nice. And we've seen some of that in the pre-season. It seems to be a concerted effort from the group. And I'm wondering whether unlocking teams that sit deep through set pieces, if we're able to do that, will really change the dynamic when we're facing some of those teams. But
so I think we scored one, haven't we? Van Hecker scored from a set piece. It's a bit of a scrappy one. Was that the second game in Japan, I think?
Yeah, and we've come very close a few times as well. Like,
I mean, one of Sarmiento's goals was from a set piece as well. Like, we've seen an uptick in 3 games. It's a small sample size, but we can't be any worse than we were at them. So,
I've got a question on the signings, just as we round that piece out. We've got at right wing, we've got Adingra, Minter, Koza Dewberry. Apparently, the new guy, Gruder, is apparently primarily a right winger. That's what the Mainz fans are saying.
It's not where he's played, though. It's not where he's played.
No, it doesn't seem like where he's played, but that's what they're claiming. And then, as you say, Solly March. That's a lot of players. Do we read anything into that with the future of Solly March and his injury as to why we're fueling that area so much?
Is Adingra, were we not forcing Adingra to kind of play on the right when he's more naturally?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
He's a left winger. And
didn't we nearly sell him?
He won the Ivory Coast, didn't he?
There's rumours that De Zerbi wanted him at Marseille. But he seemingly wanted a lot of players that were either with us or have been linked or that we've obviously been looking at. I don't know. I think it is. But I mean, Koza Dewberry, I know he's sort of come for first team football, but I wouldn't be that surprised to see him go out on loan. But the March one is obviously it's a concern, right? That he's been out for approaching a year. It wasn't that long into the season, was it? Because it was pre first Europa League game. So it was August, very late August, early September. So he's been out for nearly a year. and he doesn't look like he's going to be coming back in the immediate future, does he? From what we can see, I know he's been on the grass for a few weeks.
He's still training
That's
on
a
his
lot-
own, isn't he? So
That's a long way
Mm.
away from being ready for the Premier League. So yeah, I mean, I think there's an obvious concern over March, especially as he's 28, 29. So
Yeah.
coming back from an injury like that, I think that it looks to me like they're signing players on the basis that if they get Solly March back to any kind of level, it's going to be a bonus. I don't think it's an expectation at this point.
His ability at wing back is probably going to be utilised if he comes back, and we don't
Yeah,
have room for him at right wing at the end of the day. Like, he'll be able to play
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
Liam in the chat has said he's been told that March won't be back until January at the earliest. So obviously we don't know the source
I mean,
of
that's
that,
going to be
but
that's going to be 8. I mean, that's 18 months by that point. I mean, that's bordering on career ending, isn't it?
I mean, it's also about ripe for a bad ACL. We've seen it. Like, I mean, look at Moda. Like, he had 2 years, and that was because he had a 3-month setback because he had to have an operation again. Like, when you get them really bad, like, it seems like that's about the norm these days.
But then, what's he going to be like? You know, given his game, what's he going to be like? What is a fully fit Solly March going to be like? Is the imponderable, isn't it?
This is probably the exact questions that the club hierarchy have been asking themselves. All right,
Which
it's
is
probably
why
we've got
players,
these signings.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it. Sorry, I was going to say. I think some of it's obviously opportunistic, isn't it? Like the Minte one was.
The
They might have been
youngsters.
tracking for a while, but clearly there's an element of if a player is available at a fee where they think, actually, you know, like Minte so far looks like he looks far more than a £30 million player, right? At this point. So
You got a
deals
feel
to
for
be
Cozy
done.
Adibu really as well. Signed up because he was sick of sitting behind Saka at right wing, and we've signed Minte at the same time as him, and like now he's just like already in preseason, like exceeded everyone's expectations already.
Doing
If
the
you're
same
Cozy
thing.
Adibu, you're like, are you joking? Like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
So
I think
like,
our signings, it's definitely, we seem to be adopting a bit more of a flexible approach. It doesn't seem to be all so driven. You know, it does seem to be a bit more sort of reactive stuff going on, which I suppose is because we've got this window of any others. We've actually got the financial flexibility to be able to go, do you know what? We've got a bit of extra cash. That seems like a good deal. Let's go for it.
I think that's definitely possibly the case. Yeah. I think
But
the only
good
thing we've
window.
got left. I think the only thing we've got left is Premier League predictions as well. But there is one more thing
Can
I
I
wanted to
make one
cover
more?
player
Can I
wise.
say one more thing before you go?
I've
gonna
got another
say-
one as well. To be fair, so
I was going to say the only thing is, it's transfer window wise, it's a bit of a bizarre one because I think we've had an unbelievably good window overall. But if I take us back 12 months, right, we sat here doing the same prediction going, we're absolutely fine. All we need is a right back and a central midfielder. And after all of these incomings and outgoings, we're still sitting here going, do you know what? We'll be all right if we get a right back and a central midfielder. It's a weird,
that just goes
position
to
be
what
in.
that just goes to what Adam said. Like every single year, we look like we're all right at centre midfielder once the summer comes around, then we get rid of one.
Yeah.
Like we lose one again. Like
I mean,
I
we've
say,
done
we
a
get
really
rid. We
good-
didn't get rid of any of them. Like we just lost them. But
we've done a really good reshape. I mean, like I think Craig said, you know, we've done a really good reshaping of the squad, age-wise, and we've not really lost a huge amount ability-wise on paper. Looks fairly balanced, but it's just it's just to be in this perennial situation where it's like we still need a right back. Let's not forget this, lads. Like, in amongst everything else, sign as many exciting right wingers as you want, but ultimately, to Josh's point again, you know, the season is probably going to rest more on us getting a right back than signing another exciting.
Adioglu would solve everything.
Yeah, no,
Because
agreed.
both right back and left back cover, because we've seen
Yeah.
Estepinian injured, Barco unproven at left back, especially when we need to sit back a little bit more against Barco's defensive capability seems completely up in the air at the moment. So that would be amazing if we could pull that off.
And then he can play he can seemingly play basically everywhere as well. So I'm with you. He is. That is the key.
just one more name to bring up, and you know it's coming, I think, because I brought it up 3 or 4 times in pre-season as well. But like the rise and fall and rise of Jeremy Sarmiento, because this was a player that we said with absolute certainty at the end of last season, by the way. Won't be an Albion player by June. Long gone. Not up to it. Not up to Premier League level. Not good enough. Ipswich probably won't even want him. Maybe they'll take him on another loan. He'll be off to the Championship or somewhere in Europe, plying his trade in a Farmers League for a Farmers player. He's played in almost every single preseason friendly, scored in 2 of the 4 or 3 of the 4. He scored goals in
Both,
at least half of them.
I think both of the games in Japan he scored, didn't he? I think.
And has looked excellent whenever he's came on. He's came on as a sub for all of them, I think, but he's played a lot of minutes as one of those subs. He's one of those ones that have come on at halftime, like the classic preseason subs. With Enciso injured and out for a while, but Gruder coming in, like if he does, like what do we think is going to happen to Jeremy Sarmiento? Because he's played far more minutes in preseason. You would expect from his performances at Ipswich and our comments at the end of last season that he would be in a similar position to Moda, where like he's not even traveling with the squad. But it's been far from that. So what are our thoughts on Sarmiento?
I still think he's gone by the end of the window. I
Craig?
think he'll be late in the window, but I still think he'll go.
No, I think
especially if Gruder comes in.
Ooh.
If Gruder comes in, it's where do you make a space for him? I mean, it's not even from the club's point of view; it's from his point of view. Like when everybody is fully fit, who is he getting in ahead of?
if you play him centrally, I think that's where we're lacking. I think winger wise, I don't think he really gets a look in. Right, you've got Matoma and Adingra on the left, you've got Minte and Kozia Dubry on the right. Like unless you're going to fit him into that 10 role, which we are lacking at the moment, by the way. Buonanote's out, Enciso's injured, Gruder's come in, but there's 3 weeks left at the window, right? I think you keep him like at least until January. I think he's done well this preseason. You can say the same for Yasin Ayari as well, right? Like this is a new manager with a new way of working. And if he fits that 10 role and he's able to transition, like again, from what I can see, to Josh's point earlier, I still have no idea how this football works, right? I don't think many of us do. But it's all about getting up and down really quick and being able to progress the ball as quickly as possible. Sarmiento is pretty good at that. So as a key attribute to have in terms of quickness, dribbling ability and getting somewhere quick, he fits the bill, right? So I would put him at the 10, see how it works. I think he's done well whenever he's come on. You keep him until January. Then Gruder's bedded in. You've got Enciso back, hopefully fully fit and raring to go, and then you reassess.
I would also argue, to fully agree with you, by the way, like I would also argue that we've just seen Osman and Buonanotte go out. Like, if he's above them in the pecking order right now, like clearly, whether it's just on experience in the squad or whether it's all round, like whether he really is just above them on the depth chart, right? Like, I don't know which one it is, whether the Hertzler would feel more comfortable having him around as a personality or whether he, whatever the reason is, like he has been kept and the other two haven't, and they're both similar players in similar positions, right? So like for me, like that's why I think he's going to stick around too, even if you do bring in Gruder, because you don't know how long Enciso will be out injured. He's had a history of it. You've got Pedro, who you're probably going to want to play further up if and when possible. Welbeck's always on and off injury wise. Like there's a lot of players in that front line like that you're not sure about. Like the only places we have crazy depth now is the right and left. Like I was saying to the missus the other day, like just like imagine being a fullback and you've had Mitoma for 60 minutes and you bring on Simon Adingra at the end of the game. Like you're just done, aren't you? Like you're full on, like just like I sub me off, Gaffer. I'm not playing anymore. Like I'm sub me off or I'm done. Like because I'm tired and now I've got this guy coming on who's twice as fast as Mitoma to like run at me, or the other way around. Like Mitoma gets a rest, Adingra runs someone ragged for 60 minutes in a position of strength, and then you bring on Mitoma in the last 30 minutes to try and create something. We all saw what he did at Bournemouth that time when we did exactly that. Like that's the only time we've ever brought him on as an impact, and he scored once and assisted twice or something ridiculous. Like. And then on the right, you've got the same thing. You've got Minty now, who's unbelievably talented so far. You've got Kozia Dewberry, who looks very comfortable filling in right behind him. Like, you've got Enciso, you've got Sarmiento. Like, it's going to be, like, vile for these teams having to defend our wings. Like, if they yeah, it's mental. Like, and I think Sarmiento.
That's why it's
gonna
get
be
the
a part of it.
defense. Like I say, it all hinges on how quickly his defensive solidity comes into play. That's going to be. I mean, like if he gets that in place quickly, even a couple of months, like you said, by October, say, you can. I mean, I know we've all said 10th or 12th. If it clicks very quickly, if this team finishes 6th or 7th, you wouldn't say that's an outrageous surprise, right? On paper,
I would say that's an outrageous surprise.
I would, yeah. At this stage.
At this
But
stage,
say if
we-
it
we-
clicks,
maybe if it clicks, I still the sky's the limit, but also there is a limit. You know who we've not talked about though? We've not mentioned Evan Ferguson's name once.
Still injured though, isn't he? Same reason.
He
we
is,
barely
but
talked
it's not
about
going to
Estepinian.
be. Ferguson's not out forever though. Is how long
don't
do we
think he's
see his
done-
injury as?
I don't think he's done anything. I don't think he's done any training by the looks of it.
I'm not even sure he's back in training at all.
I
Like
don't
him
think-
and
I think-
Estepinian are both not there really.
Yeah, I think months.
Because where does he fit into this whole system as well? Like this is the guy 12 months ago who's the future of the club, or however long we were having this discussion, and now he's also, is he still 19 as well? He's with the 19 crew. That front line that we've got, if you just put Matoma to one side for a second, is age-wise just pure nonsense. Pure
I mean,
absolute
Dingra
nonsense.
is probably Dingra is probably the oldest at 22 or something.
Yeah, him and so you've got João Pedro and Adingra at 22, Ferguson 19, Koja Dubry 19, Minter 20, Sarmiento 22, and Ciso is 20. Osman's obviously gone out, but 19.
And what's it? And if you put in the new the German guy,
Gruder,
20.
20. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it's a controversial opinion to say that Ferguson clearly has a future here. I'm not at the point where it's like just get rid of him. He's crap.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, like
no
it's
way.
fairly-
No.
but
It's fairly well documented that he didn't get on with De Zerbi, right?
and there's
last
just such a
season.
huge grey area as to what is going on with this injury, because he has not been. Feels like he's not been healthy since the first game against Athens. Like, frankly, I don't feel like we've seen him at full
He
fitness.
scored the hat
since
trick. He
that
scored
game.
the Newcastle hat trick, didn't he?
And then he went off
Fairly
with
early on in the season, wasn't it?
he went off with a knock the game before Athens, didn't play at Athens, and literally, like, we've never seen him the same ever again. Like, something
Came
is
briefly
going
back.
on.
Didn't he score at Forest? He scored at Forest away, didn't he? I think. Did he score in that Forest away game?
It was something silly,
Yeah.
like 6 goals in 10 or 11 games, and you're like,
Yeah, and then nothing.
you're talking this guy's the old mutt's nuts, and but then it sort of just dissipated with an injury.
I mean,
for me-
everyone's said glandular fever, haven't they? It's the common theme
I mean,
you keep seeing
He's
pop
got
up.
a cast on now as well, hasn't he? But I think just for this season, I think we're probably right not to talk about him, to be honest. Just let him heal, right? And just we're talking about the breadth of attacking options that we have. You've got Welbeck scoring a preseason. João Pedro looks like he's back to normal, right? Just the pressure's off for Evan Ferguson. Just get better and just work on that and just recoup. And that's it. Because for once, it feels like we're not screaming out for a striker. But in the future, that striker is Evan Ferguson. There's no doubt about it. It's just we need him to be healthy first. He's had a torrid 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, it's been brutal. All right, predictions for the rest of it. This is where we show our lack of football knowledge and choose title winners and relegated 3. So we've done our positions for the Albion: 10th, 11th or 12th, 10th or 12th. 14th, which is not great now in retrospect. But let's talk title winners. Probably the quicker one to go through. I'll lead with, shockingly, I think Manchester City are probably going to win the league again. Thoughts?
I don't know this year.
Arsenal.
Adam?
We just saw an hour ago that all of the 115 charges of this year, right? Like that's going to be fun to look on.
Don't get me too excited. Oh yeah, I'm not looking past City. Too many unknowns elsewhere.
I think Arsenal this year.
Ooh, Arsenal, City, City. Interesting.
Mm.
Liverpool haven't signed a single player this summer, by the way.
They just
That's
got rejected
nuts.
while we were doing this, Josh.
Did they?
Yeah.
Zubimendi said no.
Yikes.
That's quite funny.
I think this one may be a bit more of a. To be fair, I thought we'd all go through with City, so obviously it was a more diverse conversation. I thought this one, I think, definitely will be relegated 3. There are a lot of football clubs that could go down. Really, this feels like one of those seasons where basically everybody except for that like massive 7 could have a bad day and like find themselves down there. Do I think we will? No, obviously not. But like, I think this is one of those ones where there's a lot of very competitive teams, and we might see like a surprising shit show.
I've got 2 obvious ones and a surprise one in my 3.
Let's do it.
Ipswich, Southampton, 2 obvious ones. Brentford.
Okay. That's not a bad shout. Craig?
I have Ipswich, Southampton, but I have Forest as the third one. I don't see it. I think Espirito Santo is not very good. I think they're just they have a good team, but just not a good manager. And we'll see. Maybe Facundo does his thing at Leicester. Who knows? But yeah, I think Forest more than Leicester.
Adam?
I don't know.
Superb.
I know. I said, yeah, that's my insight. I'm gonna take a gamble here on a points deduction rearing its head again for Everton. There are rumours of this. Their squad is really not very impressive to me in any way, and I think they'll get a points deduction. They'll go. I am going to buy in to the myth of Kieran McKenna and say Ipswich stay up. I agree with the Forest call. And Southampton can go as well because fuck them.
So you've gone Everton, Forest, Southampton.
Yeah.
And I mean, Robin will say I've already wrote it down in another group as well. Like I agree with Forest. Also, I have them coming bottom on mine.
Did you not have? Did you not have the Al? Are you going to come clean? Did you not have the Albion lower than 14th in that other one?
No, they're 14th. Let me count. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. Bang.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, referee.
Fair enough.
The receipts and everything.
I had Forest coming bottom, like because I agree with you, Craig. Like I think Nuno is washed as hell. I think Forest are a bad football team. They were a bad football team last season, and like they only got away with it really because of points deductions and just how awful those promoted groups were. But I, similarly to you, Adam, I buy into the Kieran McKenna myth. I think it's going to be Forest, Leicester. I think they will get a points deduction anyway because there's been numerous rumors again of like them not being far enough ahead, and I think Cooper is an absolute disaster. Like just hiring like your biggest rival's manager is already an issue, but like the fans hate him already. Like it's just a recipe for disaster. It feels like Caicedo at Beershot with Bonanotte at Leicester. And then I have Saints as the other team as well, because I think that style, it's going to be Burnley all over again. Like
they haven't done enough.
Naive football style, bad signings. Yeah, I agree.
You've got me rethinking Leicester now because points deduction and Steve Cooper. That's odds on, isn't it? My word.
You've got to pick one side that plays in blue to get a points deduction and get relegated. That's the rule.
It seems that way.
Yeah, you have to pick one of them.
It could end up being both at this point, honestly. Like
Chelsea.
I don't think Chelsea are going to finish very high either, by the way. I think I had them like 10th in that table that I posted to you, Robin, and Enzo Maresca is not it. Like he is going to perform poorly enough that I think they'll stick with him longer just to be stubborn. And
No.
yeah, you think he's going to go early again?
I think if Steve Cooper isn't the first, then Maresca's the first. Honestly, like they go through them like hot dinners. What if they had like 3 managers a year at this point? Like they'll probably think they're overdue by November.
I don't
They are
understand
an
them.
incredibly rich Watford, aren't they?
None of it makes any sense. None of it. None of the signings. None of any of it makes any sense. It's just.
They spent like 120 million again this summer, I think. Haven't they?
I don't. And who have they got of note? It's just Twitch plays football. Like it's just there's no rhyme or reason for any of it. It's just like 18 people making random decisions.
Pedro Neto for 50 mil, who's injured half of the time, is just baffling to me. Right? Like you said,
their squad is like 50.
Yeah.
Got like, their squad has like 55 or something.
oh, you can try and make sense of it if you want, but you'd be here all day. So like, there's no point.
Bowley thinks it's the other football. That's why he's got a 55-man squad.
Yeah, send
like,
on the
this
special
is-
teams. Yeah.
He's like, this is why we didn't have a good team last year, boys. Like, we can't be
We
fielding.
didn't have enough.
Yeah, we've only got one of them.
Everyone was knackered, doing everything.
You can't rule out Chelsea signing someone absurd talent-wise before the end of the window, or like 3 of them, though, can you? So that
Looks
this
like they're
might
getting
change.
They're getting João Felix by the looks of it.
He's
Well, it looks
absolute
like they're
toilet,
going
isn't he?
for Osimhen. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but it looks
Oh,
like
from
they're going for
Napoli?
him again. Yeah, it looks like they're going for him again.
Lukaku might go the other way, so that might make sense.
Didn't even think about that, but yeah. So, who knows? They're a fucking disaster. I just can't.
Can we-
Like, they're just a
It's
meme.
Great to see.
My final thought, which has just come back to me talking about transfers, is the most random transfer of this window is Matt Ryan going to Roma. Surely.
Yeah, that is a weird one. It is a strange one. I just keep forgetting he's even a thing. Like, I keep forgetting he's even a footballer, really.
Good for him for like keeping this thing going.
Best agent in the world.
Yeah.
He really must do. Like he's got to move to Arsenal, and then Roma. Where was he? Was he like Alkmaar or somewhere last season?
He went somewhere, didn't he?
It was like Copenhagen. I think he went to somewhere in. I think it was like Copenhagen as well. He's taken a tour of like vaguely nice places in Europe.
Where's everyone's thoughts on Palace?
Well, they're about to lose Gay to Newcastle. Looks like it's an inevitability at this point.
Yeah.
May not be until the very end of the window, but it seems like it's like the usual bullshit of like doing a bid, doing another bid. They're gonna get him. Like they've already put in 3. It's over. Like he's gone.
Yeah.
And we've already seen Elise go to Bayern, obviously. They need to have a really busy end of window, frankly, because Ismaila Sarr ain't it. Like they tried to sign Zaha back, as far as I'm aware, and
He's going to
that
Leicester.
itself-
By the looks
yeah,
of it.
that has fallen through. So like I think Kamada is a great sign. Like I was
He
sad
got
that we
written
weren't
off
in
by
through.
Palace fans after about 45 minutes on Sunday already.
Did he?
I
That's a
think they
shame because I
played-
think he's a good player.
I thought it's because he came from Lazio, I think, right?
Lazio.
Yeah.
Jealous.
I
Of
think
that
whoever
signing.
Palace were
I thought
playing
it
on
was good.
Sunday, like
We-
just
We could have
Judging
had
by
2
X, was
Japanese players. It would have been wonderful.
that would have been. But yeah, I don't know. I think they are. Depends if Glasner can continue what he started because he had them looking quite decent, but I don't know. They're another
main-
difficult one. I think
the
they
main
probably
prob-
won't go down. They'll be in that annoying 13th to 15th bracket, and they'll probably be within, similar to last season with us, we'll probably be fairly close to them, I'd have thought, come the end of the season.
Glasner's problem will be being backed by the board.
Yeah.
I think he's a good manager, but if you lose Gehi, Joaquin Anderson, Fulham want him. Like you've lost Elise, you didn't get Zaha back.
Is Eze going anywhere?
I think they have to keep him.
Adam
They've
Wharton
got
as well, isn't there?
Like, yeah,
Wharton was
And
quality as well, yeah.
I think they'll be 13th, 14th. I think them.
Yeah, in and
but
around us probably.
because they won't get backed. Like if you went and go and spent that Elise money and you spent that Gehi money on decent replacements, then they'll be in and around exactly what we are.
Mateta's become a footballer though over the last 6 to 9 months.
I won't worry
Just
about
depends
that
what
too
we're
much.
gonna get.
Purple patch.
Yeah. I mean, Eze is supposed to be going to City, isn't he? Like that was the rumor there that City were looking to offload Grealish to bring in Eze.
Eze instead.
Eze.
Oh, wow.
And they need
If they lose Eze, they're down there. I think.
Like,
Yeah, if they lose
Gay,
Eze, they'll
Elise, and Eze, like it doesn't matter what glass I had cooking. Like
and
they're gonna
hinging on Mateta being a world-class striker. Yeah,
they would have to invest at least 100 of that 150 million in 14 days. Like,
yeah.
it's not going to happen. Like, it historically hasn't happened, and I can't see it happening now. So yeah, I
couldn't happen to a nicer club, could it?
Yeah, not great for them. But we'll see. They'll probably still manage to scumbag a point off us at Selhurst or something like that. So we shall see. All right, well, it all kicks off Friday. Manchester United against Fulham. Emil Smith-Rowe to Fulham is a good signing as well. I'll be intrigued to see how he does there. And then Ipswich, Liverpool.
Fulham have got a sleeper
well.
team. Sorry, I'm putting in there before we close, but Fulham are going to be up there, unfortunately.
I think so too, to be fair. I think they do have a quietly quality team. Ipswich, Liverpool is the early kickoff in the US as well. Looking forward to that one, to be fair. That should be a good one, but I'll be in the car to freaking Goodison. So, and then obviously with the 3:00 kickoff, West Ham Villa that afternoon. And then Sunday, you've got Brentford Palace, Chelsea, Man City. Big boy game on the Super Sunday finale. And then Leicester Spurs on Monday Night Football. Just feels like a defensive disaster waiting to happen at both ends of the pitch. Like, feels like there's going to be a lot of goals in that one, and none of them quality.
I'm so happy. We got to the end of the season as Brighton fans, and we were all just done. The players, everyone involved, fans, doesn't matter. But I'm so happy it's all back now because we've got the hope back, and we're in an especially interesting position.
Anything's possible.
It's gonna be fun.
All right. Well, we will be back next weekend. We will have to discuss timings because that kicks off that we would be then recording the podcast at 5:00, which is half an hour into Man City Chelsea. So we will
immediately off piece.
immediately breaking our promises.
Yeah, that's inevitable.
Like Murph in the chat said he was going to hold us to the 5:00 on Sunday very strictly, and it looks like we're immediately getting an after-school detention for this. But we'll just have to see. So we will be back next weekend on the Sunday for sure to talk Everton. I will be there. Robin, are you making it up there?
I am absolutely not.
All right. I didn't think so, but you're like, it's in the north. I thought there might have been a chance.
Yeah, it's school holidays. Everything's all right off at the moment.
All
I'm
right,
hoping
perfect.
I might be going to the Man United home game.
All right, perfect.
Hoping to potentially sneak that in. So may as well use my season ticket at least a couple of times.
Oh, you have renewed. I thought you'd stop. I thought you weren't going to renew.
Well, I wasn't going to, and I got the deadline. I got the auto renewal deadline.
He FOMO'd. Oh, you didn't FOMO. You just messed it up.
I just messed up the deadline. Yeah,
Brilliant.
And it auto renewed. So
another victim of Tony Bloom right there.
Yeah.
The Paul Barber maneuver. Get a fix. Thank you for coming in. And yeah, we got rid of the roided physios last October, November, and that really saw the downfall of our physio team. So this new group hopefully is the,
I think we
the
got
ones
one
we
from
need.
we got one from Man United and then one from Germany, didn't we?
Yeah. I think we'll have a busy week. I think we'll have a lot to talk about come Sunday, not just on the football pitch, but off of it. Looks like there's probably going to be some deals done this week, in and out. So we will be back on Sunday to talk about all of it. This has been an absolute marathon stream, fellas. And for those of you listening to the car, like this might be like a 2-dayer, I think. But we'll speak to you on Sunday. Everybody traveling up to Goodison, have a great day. And we will all chat on Sunday.
Bye.